Hey beautiful, have you considered subscribing to our channel? Help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers.
The escape pod streaked through Zorath 9's crimson sky like a dying ember, its heat shields flaking away in molten ribbons. Inside, Commander Elias Grant clenched his jaw against the crushing G-forces, his harness biting into his shoulders as the pod's stabilizers screamed in protest. The impact was a thunderclap, a violence of twisted metal and scattered debris, but Elias was already moving before the dust settled. His fingers found the release latch, muscles coiling as he kicked the warped hatch open. Acidic wind stung. His face, the scent of ozone and rotting vegetation thick in the air. He didn't flinch. Above him, unseen, the Overseer's observation drones hovered like silent specters, transmitting every moment to the Galactic Survey Team's orbiting vessel. Kael'thor adjusted his ocular implants, the sterile blue light of the holodisplay washing over his scaled features. "Another failed landing," he muttered, talons tapping a rhythm of detached curiosity. The atmospheric corrosion alone should have dissolved that pod mid-descent. Yet here the creature is, walking. Vrix, his carapace gleaming under the ship's artificial glow, let out a derisive chitter. "It won't last. Look at it. No exoskeleton, no venom sacs. Soft flesh, brittle bones. Zorath 9 will chew it apart before sunset." His mandibles twitched in amusement. "Shall we wager on the cause of death?" "I say the blood claws get it first." Captain Duran silenced them with a raised hand, his crest flaring in irritation. "Focus. This is the first human specimen observed. In a Class 12 Deathworld, record everything." Below, Elias crouched beside a gnarled tree, its bark seeping caustic sap. He pressed a finger to the ooze, then, to the alien's collective horror, smudged it across a shallow cut on his forearm. Kael'thor's frills stiffened. "It's testing the toxicity, deliberately," Vrix scoffed. "Suicidal." But Elias didn't convulse or collapse. Instead, he grunted, approvingly, and snapped off a branch, using the sap to coat his knife blade. "Improvised weapon," Kael'thor breathed. "It's adapting." The human moved with methodical precision, scanning the terrain like a predator assessing territory. His gaze lingered on the storm-dark horizon, where lightning fractured the sky. Shelter, fire, defense. The priorities of a creature wired for survival. Then, without hesitation, Elias ripped a fistful of razor-edged grass and began weaving it into cordage. Vrix's antennae twitched. "That plant dissolves chitin on contact." "And yet," Kael'thor murmured, "its skin barely reddens." Dren leaned forward. "How?" The answer came in real time. Elias wiped his bleeding palm on his trousers and kept working. By dusk, the human had transformed the crash site into a fortress in progress. Stripped vines anchored a lean-to between two boulders. A ring of stones cradled a smoldering fire, fed by wood he'd charred into slow-burning coal. The aliens watched, transfixed, as Elias scaled a cliff face to pry loose a slab of shale, no climbing gear, no fear of the 100-foot drop, and hauled it back to camp. Structural reinforcement, Kael'thor realized. It's not just hiding. It's building. Vrix shifted uncomfortably. "No species does this, not without tools, not alone." A crackling voice erupted from the comms. Elias's damaged transmitter, somehow still functional. "Day 1, shelters stable, water source secured, tomorrow, perimeter traps." A pause. Then, quieter. "They're watching." "Good." The feed cut. Out. Silence swallowed the observation deck. Duran exhaled slowly. "It knew we were here." Kael'thor's claws dug into his console. "It let us see." Outside, the first howls of the blood claws echoed through the valley. Elias smiled, sharp as the knife in his hand, and tossed another log on the fire. The first light of Zorath 9's twin suns bled through the toxic mist as Elias Grant wiped the sweat from his brow, his muscles burning from a night spent reinforcing the lean-to. His fingers, raw from weaving acid-resistant vines into cordage, now worked a slender bone fragment into a needle. The carcass of the six-legged scavenger he'd speared at dawn lay gutted nearby, its hide stretched across rocks to cure. Every movement was efficient, purposeful. Wasted energy meant death here. Above him, the drones adjusted their orbits, zooming in as Elias threaded sinew through the bone needle and began stitching the scavenger's hide into a water skin. Vrix's mandibles clacked in disbelief. It's making containers now? Does it think this is some kind of wilderness excursion? Kyle Thor's frills twitched as he magnified the feed. Observe the stitching pattern. It's identical to the technique used by the now-extinct Rathari nomads, but the human couldn't know that. This is instinct, or stupidity, Vrix snapped. One leak, and that hide will melt through its organs. On screen, Elias raised the half-finished water skin to his lips and blew into it, testing for leaks. Satisfied, he dunked it into a nearby stream. The water hissed where it touched the bank's mineral deposits, sending up curls of acrid steam. Elias drank deeply anyway. Captain Duren's crest flattened. Its digestive system must neutralize toxins we can't even measure. By midday, the shelter had evolved. The lean-to now boasted a raised floor of lashed branches, a sloping roof layered with broad, waxy leaves to repel acid rain, and, most baffling, a series of bone chimes dangling from the eaves. Kael'thor zoomed in. Vibration sensors. It's using them as an early warning system. Vrix shifted, his carapace plates rasping. That's a hunter's trick. The Yilketh use similar devices to track burrowers in the... He cut himself off, antennae stiffening. This creature isn't supposed to hunt here. Zorath 9 hunts it. Below, Elias paused, head cocked. His hand slid to the fire-hardened spear at his side. The drones detected nothing, but the human's posture screamed prey spotted. A heartbeat. Later, the undergrowth exploded. A juvenile blood claw, all serrated forelimbs and slavering jaws, lunged. Elias pivoted, letting momentum carry the creature past him, and drove his spear into its thorax. The blood claw screeched, ichor spraying as it writhed. Elias finished it with a stone to the skull. Silence. Then, he didn't even hesitate. Kael'thor whispered. Vrix's voice was uncharacteristically small. That wasn't defense. That was butchery. Elias wiped gore from his face and resumed stitching, as if the attack were no more remarkable than swatting a fly. Dusk brought a new horror. Elias had stacked rocks into a kiln, feeding it with precisely split wood. Now, as the flames roared, he tossed in handfuls of metallic ore scavenged from the crash site. Duren's talons flexed. It's attempting metallurgy. Molten metal pooled in a crude clay crucible. Elias poured it into a notch carved in a flat. Stone, forming a rough blade blank. When he quenched it in the stream, the water boiled violently. Kael'thor's implants flickered with analysis. That alloy shouldn't hold an edge. The impurities... The human tested the blade against a branch. It sliced clean through. Vrix backed away from the feed. This is wrong. No species progresses from stone to forged tools in a single day, not without guidance. Duren's eyes remained locked on the screen. Unless their evolution is the guidance. The transmission crackled to life again. Elias's voice, calm amid the howling wind. Day 2. Forge operational. Secured meat, water, perimeter. Tomorrow? A pause. A sound like bone crunching. I hunt the hunters. The aliens stared at each other. Outside, the blood claws began to scream. The blood claw pack moved at twilight, their chitinous bodies clicking through the undergrowth like a living landslide. Elias crouched motionless atop his shelter, the bone chimes silent. He'd oiled the joints hours ago. His breath fogged in, the freezing air as he counted shadows. 8. No. 9. The largest, a scarred alpha with one milky eye, sniffed at the perimeter where Elias had buried the scavenger's offal. The trap was obvious. That was the point. In the observation deck, Vrix's antennae trembled. It's baiting them. Kael'thor's talons dug into his console. Not baiting, auditioning. The alpha lunged first, its scythe limbs carving furrows in the soil as it charged the decoy meat pile. The ground collapsed beneath it. Elias's pit trap was a masterpiece of brutality, a 6-foot drop onto spikes of fire-hardened wood, angled, to impale, but not kill. The alpha shrieked, ichor bubbling from its wounds as it thrashed. The pack hesitated. That was all Elias needed. He leapt from the roof, landing astride the nearest Bloodclaw's thorax. His forged blade punched through its eye cluster before the creature could buck him off. Hot alien blood sprayed across his face as he rolled clear, coming up with a second knife drawn. This one serrated from the escape pod's hull plating. Vrix recoiled. It's not defending itself, it's culling them! Chaos erupted. The pack split. 3 circling left, 2 feinting right, but Elias had memorized the terrain. He backpedaled toward the kiln, boots kicking up embers. When the lead Bloodclaw pounced, he sidestepped and shoved it into the searing coals. The stench of burning chitin filled the air as the creature flailed, its limbs combusting like dry. Tinder Kael'thor's implants flickered wildly. Temperature readings confirm that fire exceeds 900 degrees. How is it not? On screen, Elias grabbed a smoldering branch and threw it at another Bloodclaw's face. The creature howled, blinded, just long enough for Elias to sever its nerve cord with a brutal downward slash. The alpha dragged itself from the pit, ichor slick and furious. Elias met its charge head-on. They collided like rival predators. The Bloodclaw's scythe limbs scraping against Elias's makeshift breastplate, scavenger hide layered with pod metal, its mandibles snapping inches from his throat. Elias jammed his knife into its underjoint, twisting until greenish fluid gushed over. His wrists. The alpha spasmed, its death throes slamming them both into the kiln. Molten metal sloshed from the crucible. Elias rolled as the liquid fire splashed across the alpha's thorax, melting through chitin like paper. The creature's death scream shook. The trees. Silence. Panting, Elias wiped his blade clean on the alpha's carcass. 6 dead. 3 fled. He spat blood and grinned at the nearest drone. Captain Duren's voice was hollow. That wasn't survival. Kael'thor stared at the smoldering battlefield. No, it was demonstration. Vrix's mandibles clicked erratically. Did you see its pupils during the fight? Vertical slits like a predator adapted to nocturnal hunting, Kael'thor finished. I need to revise my notes. Humans don't have fight-or-flight responses. Dren turned. Then what? Only fight. Only always. The transmission crackled. Day 3. Pack neutralized. Alpha hide will make decent armor. A wet, tearing sound. Turns out their venom sacs are edible if you... Static. Then impossibly. Tastes like crab. The bah. Aliens stared at each other. Outside, the wind carried the scent of burning chitin and something darker, something primal. Elias Grant was no longer being hunted. Zorath 9 had a new apex predator. The storm hit at dawn. It wasn't just wind or rain. Zorath 9's tempests were living things, howling across the landscape with fists of acid and lightning that split the sky like fractured glass. Elias stood at the mouth of his shelter, watching. The horizon bleed black. He'd spent the night reinforcing the walls with the Alpha Bloodclaw's chitin, layering the plates like medieval armor. It wouldn't be enough. Above him, the drones shuddered in the gale, their feeds flickering. Recall. "The probes!" Captain Duren ordered, his voice crackling over the ship's comms. "No species survives this." Kael'thor's talons hesitated over the controls. "Wait. Look." Elias was moving. The human worked like a machine possessed. He dragged the half-molten crucible from the kiln, using the Alpha's own scythe limbs as tongs, and poured the searing metal into a trench around his shelter. Steam erupted as the makeshift moat met the acidic rain, creating a corrosive barrier. Vrix's antennae flattened. "It's weaponizing the storm." Then the lightning struck. Bolt sheared off the cliffside above Elias's camp, sending an avalanche of shale crashing down. The drones barely caught the moment he dove, not away, but toward the collapsing rock face, rolling behind a boulder as the debris funneled harmlessly around him. When the dust cleared, he was already on his feet, salvaging splintered stone into fresh fortifications. Kael'thor's frills trembled. That wasn't luck. It calculated the slide's trajectory mid-fall. Duren's crest darkened. Or it's done this before. By midday, the shelter was buried under 3 feet of mud and rock, intentionally. Only a single vent remained, piped through with hollow reeds Elias had sealed with resin. The drone's thermal scans showed him inside, calmly roasting bloodclaw, meat over a tiny flame as the storm raged. Then the transmission cut through the static. "Day 4, storm's good cover." A pause. Metal screeched. "Fix the comms. You boys getting all this?" The aliens froze. Vrix's mandibles clicked wildly. "It's been talking to us this whole time?" On screen, Elias held up the cracked transmitter. Its wiring now fused with scavenged copper and what looked like blood claw venom sacs. "Galactic Standard, right? Figured you'd want notes for your report." He grinned, teeth glinting in the firelight. "Humans, Deathworlders, etc." Duren slammed a fist on the console. "Deploy extraction. Now!" Kael'thor didn't move. "And say what? We came to watch you die, but you're too good at living?" Below, Elias was carving something into the shelter wall. A tally. 4 vertical lines. A 5th slashed through them. 5 days, Kael'thor realized. That's how long it thinks until rescue. Vrix hissed. "We never sent a distress signal." Elias's voice crackled again, softer this time. "You didn't have to." The transmission ended. Outside, the storm broke, just enough for a single streak of sunlight to spear through the clouds, illuminating the shelter like a beacon or a challenge.